The two most mentioned foods in a prepper's pantry are Spam and rice. That mystery report combined with World War II requirements of fielding nutrition to the front quickly led to the square can we all know today. Lots of people have memories of slicing the contents and making one of the most lackluster sandwiches ever eaten in childhood. Rice has the prepper reputation of being the wonder grain that can be stored for decades in ideal conditions. There is no wonder why, at least in much of the Western world. Plain old rice and Spam right out of the can is looked at as struggle food when money is low. That is certainly not the case because you can go cheaper, and because most of the meals you think of when working with Spam or rice are just done quickly with no extra thought. A lot of preppers are hyper-focused on the end of the world, post-apocalyptic scenarios because, like it or not, you've been conditioned to think of prepping that way. Not only would it keep the concepts of prepping out on the fringes of society, but it serves to alienate individuals further. But I digress. I bring that up because I could already hear the comments come in. In a real survival scenario, you wouldn't care about taste. Yes, but even in places where starving to death is a possible outcome of life, people will try to create great tasting meals with what they have and create recipes with ingredients that may sound horrible, but they're there. This is because no matter who you are, unless you are hell-bent on self-destructive tendencies, you want you or your loved ones to have as much of the good things that life can offer as much as possible, no matter the circumstances. Let's just say Planet X or whatever is on a collision course that's expected to impact in 2 weeks' time. I guarantee there will be people who will be cooking the most lavish meals while waiting for D-Day. So, because rice and Spam are the most common entry-level prepper pantry items, and because I encourage you to rotate your stock for the sake of freshness rather than sticking them in the closet for decades, I'm going to share what you can do with 3 different meals for 2 people created on 1 can of Spam and 2 cups of rice. Don't throw away the can after you pull out the Spam. You'll need it later. You'll see why. First, you want to cook your rice. Learn how to do this in a saucepan. I see my other Filipino types out there. It doesn't matter if you're 100% or 10% Filipino or married to one. There's a high chance you have a rice cooker and can only make rice using one because you've never bothered learning how to do it the old school way. Learn. Everyone. If you're able, learn how to do it over a fire on your next camping trip. And depending on the variety, not all grains may be sticky when fully cooked, but you want to be able to get the most nutrients and calories out of it through proper cooking. All 3 dishes we're making will be using rice, so when it's done, we'll set it aside. Now we have to fry up the Spam. Make sure you cut slices to match the opening of the can. You'll see why. Slice them as thin or as thick as you want. I prefer thin slices because of the crust that forms while cooking. We're going to cube some of this for another dish. Set the pieces aside and pull out your cast iron pan. In this house, we fry using tallow or lard. Make sure everything is nice and hot and the lard covers the pan completely for the best results. I know my pan is in need of re-seasoning. Slap the full cuts of Spam onto the hot iron and fry them until a nice brown crust forms. Once you're done frying, put them in a plate to cool. Grab some of that rice from earlier and just lay down some slices on top of it all. If you've never heard of Filipino banana ketchup, I'm encouraging you to try some with this Spam. As for me, I'm using this truffle-infused honey I got for $1.99 at the grocery discount market. This is the end of dish 1, and it is miles ahead of just pulling the stuff out of the can and throwing it on anything you can find. I didn't even bother waiting for the other dishes to finish before I destroyed this one. Next, we're making musubi. Grab that can and some saran wrap and make a pocket. We're making the glaze in the same pan we just fried the slices in. We're retaining as many calories as we can. The link to make the glaze will be posted in the description. As a note, we're using nothing but good natural honey on this. No blends, nothing of that sort. While the sauce reduces into more of a glaze, we're throwing some of the fried Spam slices into it and making sure that some of the glaze cooks into the meat. That's going to add more flavor. The seaweed is the same type you roll sushi in, nori. Open your package of seaweed and put some rice in the Spam can with the saran wrap. Lay one of the pieces on top of the rice and pack it in tight. Once that's good to go, lay it down on the seaweed and roll it tightly. Pull the remaining sauce in the pan into a dish and you're pretty much done with this. Grab a wok or whatever and the cubed spam. We're making spam and kimchi fried rice. This is homemade kimchi, but store-bought can work too, of course. Fermented foods aid in keeping a healthy gut biome and a part of a healthy human that can fight. Process the kimchi just so there's no large pieces left over. Get that wok in your animal fat of choice and go for medium heat. Fry the spam cubes and make sure they're getting browned. Add the kimchi and fry it all together. Add the remaining rice and stir fry it all together. Plate that stuff up and top it with sriracha. We have 3 different dishes from 1 can of spam for 2 people. This isn't gourmet French style cooking, but it's designed to make do with resources you may have on hand, or things you can still purchase right now, or learn how to make down the road. You're at least relearning how to love spam in a different way, for the same reason that soldiers are given different kinds of MREs. Truth be told, a ration that could be easily just a concoction of sugar, oil, and tree nuts with some whey protein thrown in would work if the sole purpose was to provide survival sustainment. We are rethinking the concepts inside the world of survival and prepping and blending it with ideas found in homesteading because this is a natural progression. The specialization and splitting of the frontiersman into the tactical bro, the survivalist, and the homesteader created a massive division from this independent individual and family unit into different groups thinking that they should stay separate and distinct from each other. This leads to creating pockets of information when ideally, can you imagine what a united community of these 3 groups can bring to the table? Your mental state kept in the positive zone in trying times helps keep spirits up and hopeful. Suffering as the default state can and will breed resentment and situations where bad decisions become increasingly common. Survival potential drops to 0 when you're faced with insurmountable odds, no hope, and no expectation of things ever getting better. Every history book shows this. It's a very poisonous state for the mind to exist in. Keep this final thought in mind. If you believe you're truly in a hopeless state of existence, and you are convinced of it, and that there's nothing redeeming about any of this experience, pray you never see the light at the end of the tunnel when it's far too late. Until the next video, be good, stay safe, and have a good one.